Welcome to the CXR channel, our premier podcast for talent acquisition and talent management. Listen in as the CXR community discusses a wide range of topics focused on attracting, engaging, and retaining the best talent. We're glad you're here.
Hello, everybody. I'm Chris White, president of CXR, and I'm host for today's podcast, where we're producing a segment we like to call Have You Met? Now, we sit down typically with a TA leader to sort of shine a little light on them and what they're doing, where they've been, and to sort of help you get to know them a little bit, learn kind of what they're about. So today, I am really pleased to bring to you longtime recruiting veteran and CXR member and CXR alumni, Rob Dromgoole. Wow.
Hey, well, thanks for having me on the show, Chris. Appreciate the invite, and I can't wait to talk recruiting with you and just have a great discussion about some of the unique things we're doing here at Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma.
Yeah, well, I tell you, I mean, so you've been doing this a while, so we're pleased to have you on. You've been doing this a while, but Rob, you have sort of a diverse background in recruiting. You're at Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma, and
correct.
And before we sort of get into that, I want to talk a little bit about you. You've been at, let me make sure I have this right. You've been at PNNL, JP.
Yes, yeah. Correct.
T-Mobile. You were last at T-Mobile.
Correct.
And I think, and I've probably missed a few in there, but you also have an executive recruiting background that goes way back.
Yeah, I was at an agency, a retained agency for a few years, and I even did an internet startup and was a multimillionaire with unvested stock for a minute and lost it all with everyone else in the internet bubble, but it was a fun ride.
That almost sounds like we come back to another episode for a country song.
There you go, right? That's how I ended up here in Oklahoma. I lost it all and ended up in Oklahoma.
Well, okay, so none of those sound like Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma to me.
Not at all. Not at all.
Why such a departure from what you would typically be working on, what you had historically been working on?
Sure. So my previous role at T-Mobile, I was heading up recruiting for the Southeastern region for the engineering function and recruiting engineers to help build T-Mobile's fantastic 5G network. And when I heard about this opening, I was kind of like you. I was like, what? But so I'm like, I have to go interview and talk to this amazing tribe. And the story that compelled me was, even though I had done some high volume recruiting in my past with JP Morgan on the home loan side with like loan processing centers around the US, what I thought about this particular story that was so unique was the tribe has such a diverse business portfolio. We have 9 different hospitals. We have a police force. We have child care centers all throughout the nation. We have grocery stores. We have ranches. We have 20 casinos. We have 3 resorts. So the diversity of the business portfolio I found very compelling, but also it's the servant leadership aspect. When I worked at the National Lab, there was an element of giving back and serving the country because all of the research was, in essence, things like climate change or national security, things of that nature. But the give back aspect here of the nation is all of the money that the tribe makes through the 20 casinos and 3 resorts goes back to pay for tribal services. So as successful as the casinos and the resorts have been, because they have earned billions of dollars and they do very well, it goes back. We still have tribal members in rural southeastern Oklahoma that do not have an internet connection, that do not have a cell phone coverage. And, you know, the money that someone, when they put the money in the slot machine or spend at a table game at our resort, it goes to pay for, you know, a doctor at our Talihina hospital. You know, we're delivering babies out there. They got a whole hospital. We have to hire the nurses for that. We have to hire the hospital staff. So it's a unique way to give back and help support the 3rd largest tribe in the United States, because we have 200,000 tribal members. And at the same time, I get to live in a beautiful state with low cost of living and no traffic and So it just seemed like a unique mix. And the opportunity to basically build a recruiting function from the ground up and just kind of be unleashed seemed very compelling to me. So I was like, well, why not? Let's give it a go.
So I have to tell you, when we talk about the breadth of the jobs, now I just pulled it up while you were talking about that. I've gone to Google Jobs, which is obviously, it's not gonna be all of your jobs, but you've got hundreds posted, and I'm just gonna rattle these off. So
Sure.
if you're listening, hang in here with me for these categories. Restaurant and hospitality, management, personal care and services, cleaning and facilities, computer and IT, healthcare, sales and retail, education, protective services, customer service, accounting and finance, manufacturing and warehouse, transportation and logistics, entertainment and travel, business ops, installation, maintenance and repair, advertising and marketing, big deep breath, admin and office, science and engineering, HR, sports, fitness and recreation, legal.
Yes, we have wellness centers. Yeah, I forgot about them. Yeah.
Media, communications and writing, social services, nonprofit, construction, art, fashion and design. Here's a fun one: farming and outdoors, energy and mining, real estate, and my favorite so far, animal care.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we have 2 ranches with heads. God, I don't even know how many head of cattle. I want to say thousands on each. And in fact, not listed on there, we're going to be building our own meat packing facility. We're not necessarily going to try to compete with Tyson, but we're going to build our own meat packing plant so we can actually harvest our cattle on the ranches and distribute the meat from that meat packing plant to our food services so we can give to the poor tribal members so they can have access to, basically fresh organic beef.
It's fantastic. Rob, when I invited you on the show, the idea was like, geez, nobody recruits for a whole city. And now I'm starting to recruiting spans what a country of recruiting.
It's literally a country. I mean, I have a chief of police open right now, and the tribe is literally, and a lot of people listening probably are not aware of this Supreme Court case last year, but there was a Supreme Court decision called McGirt last year that basically formally established multiple tribes as formal reservations, and it changes the legal landscape for Oklahoma. A good chunk of the state of Oklahoma is now actually Indian reservation land. So there's big changes coming. I mean, in terms of the sovereignty, I mean, in theory, I don't know how far you can walk it into the future, but the tax implications, the actual boundaries of the state of Oklahoma, in theory, could change. There's a lot going on right now.
So what is that type of ruling? Like what is something that gets put in place like that? What does that mean for recruiting? Does this change your world of recruiting when you're talking about?
We'll talk about the immediate line of sight. I'll give you an example. So as a result of that ruling, any type of crime that's committed on the reservation land or against a tribal member is now not actually prosecuted by the state. So in the past, actually, I had a staff member, I'll just use her example, Casey might laugh when she hears this, but someone tried to steal her husband's truck last week, and her husband owns a local business, and they finally got the person who attempted to steal the truck. But since it was a non-tribal member stealing from a tribal member, that is no longer a state case that's prosecuted by the state of Oklahoma. That now becomes a federal case. So the jurisdiction changes entirely. So as a result of that, I have to help build up or recruit, my team does, not me. But so we have to hire additional tribal police for an entire reservation police force. We have to hire public defenders. We have to hire judges. We have to hire prosecuting attorneys. And these will work with the federal government versus the state. So so this person who stole the truck would face federal charges and be charged in federal court. Yeah. Or if there is a tribal member that for any reason, maybe a tribal member had, maybe they steal something on tribal land or something, and someone does something bad on tribal land or even harms let's say they tried to steal your car. Well, that would be potentially tried in tribal court in this reservation instead of through the state, because in essence, it's a total sovereignty issue. And that means we have to build up the whole judicial function for a nation, right? So we have to recruit for that. And that's just one aspect of that. But I mean, of course, we have the Child Care Center opening. We opened a brand new museum that literally opens to the public in the next month. So I had to recruit for that. And, so there's all kinds of unique things going on here at the nation. It's just fascinating.
Rob, what's one, there has to at least be one job that floated across your desk where you were like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, the one that, in fact, I think I shared it on LinkedIn. Well, today's the 23rd, so I don't know when this is going to air, but my director of staffing for our remote teams, Tanya Impson, has to recruit a ranch manager for our ranch that's in Daisy, Oklahoma. And I think they have like 2,000 or 3,000 head of cattle. And I'm thinking to myself, how do you recruit a ranch hand? I'm like, I don't think that's on Indeed. It's not LinkedIn. I'm like, okay, do I go to a rodeo? I'm like, so maybe do I like drive to other ranches? Is there like a ranch association where you see speakers? And I don't know. Now, Tanya and her recruiter, I'm sure, are going to do the intake and do just fine. But in my mind, I'm like,
I can't imagine.
I don't know how to recruit for that one.
I can't imagine at any point in your career prior you ever thought, ranch manager, yeah, I'll probably recruit one of those one day.
Yeah, no, not at all. Right. So, I mean, we have a drone range here where we work with NASA, and we'll actually work with the FAA and NASA, and we'll test drones. I'm like, I could find that. PhD, NASA scientist, no problem. Right. Ranch manager, I'm at a loss.
It's the new purple cow. You're no longer searching for a purple squirrel. It's a purple cow.
No, and another one of those that was recent, we also had to find a manager for our pecan farm. So we actually have a pecan farm in southeastern Oklahoma, and that was another one where I'm like, okay, where do you find that? So we had to have someone go and
vacation program.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's for an entire nation, right? So, the Choctaw Nation itself is massive in size. 8 states can actually fit within the boundaries of the reservation. So, when you think about the sheer size of it, it'd be like a 4-hour drive if you were going east to west, or another 4-hour drive if you were going from north or south to north. So, and we have all of the towns and the schools and the infrastructure that, even we have lakes and water we have to keep clean, and water for the people, stuff like that.
Rob, I think I have to say, I think you might have one of the biggest recruiting jobs no one's ever heard of.
When I actually drove down, and I had never been to the state of Oklahoma until I interviewed here for the first time. And I honestly thought that it was going to be recruiting for the one casino that's here in Durant. And then when they outlined it, I was just like, what? And how does no one know about this place? I mean, and it was, anyway, opportunity of a lifetime, right place, right time. And I want to say the team, so I had to recruit an entire recruiting team from scratch. And we now have roughly, I want to say, about 50 people, but I didn't have the budget to pay. I couldn't go to Dallas and hire an IT recruiter. I just couldn't afford it. So we've had to build our recruiting function basically from the ground up. And I'll be honest with you, we've actually tapped in to the Career Crossroads resources, and my team, which is brand new, hasn't had a lot of training or access to any type of events like an ERE or LinkedIn Talent Connect. They've never been to anything like that. So actually having your keynote speakers to tap into and listen to, whether it's through the talent board or like a Glenn, Mr. Boolean Black Belt. Glenn, I'm sorry I forgot your last name. I pronounced it wrong. But you've had every week you've had speakers that have that you've invited on. And I've had a lot of my team who've dialed in and picked up tidbits here and there. But my team is about 80% tribal members, mostly women, and they largely came into the function with no experience at all. And now I've got a fantastic IT recruiter who's mentoring with Amy Miller on a monthly basis, and she's just ripping it and gripping it. We're not using headhunters at all. And I want to say that within the past 100 days, we've hired almost about 2,400 people externally in this market, right? So a lot of hourly non-exempt positions, high volume, and they've just been, I mean, like I had a job fair yesterday. We had 175 offers on the spot. So and we've had a lot of those job fairs. So they have done just a fantastic job. So it's been a whirlwind, but at the same time, just to watch how far the team has come in 2 years. So from someone who's never done IT recruiting at all to someone who's been, we've had speakers like Katrina Kibben come in, or Trish Weirdka, who's a great sourcing expert. She spoke at SourceCon, Amy Miller, and they've helped to uplift our function. And now we've got like a great IT recruiter. I have recruiters who've headhunted public defenders now. I've had headhunters who brought in, really, really high level people in data analytics, all because of some of the speakers that like your team's brought in.
Well, I think
it's just been kind of.
You're very kind. You also have to remember you're building and all these folks who have come in to speak.
Yeah.
With your place or another location, even when we come back to the TCs, you got to remember, Rob, that you're building a recruiting team literally from scratch.
Literally from scratch. There was zero budget, and I want to say this next budget will probably be, I don't know, $3.5 million or something. Right. So, I mean, it's still not a huge budget compared to a lot of functions, but it's not nothing. So and they've done a great job.
Yeah. The work you're doing and that your team is doing is definitely not nothing. It's pretty impressive. And the fact that you've got these folks coming in with literally no recruiting experience and are still crushing it, and you're hiring thousands, and the breadth of the roles that you're hiring means that you can't exactly have recruiters like a large organization might have, where they only recruit this and they only recruit that. And I just think that's a testament for the work you guys are doing.
And we do tend to silo a little bit, but they'll cross function. I've got one recruiter, she's working on call center positions, but then on the side, she's doing a data scientist.
Yeah.
And then it's like, what? To your point, at Google, they might not set it up that way, but I found that recruiting is recruiting. And when you actually hire these young people who are really eager to learn, and you put them in front of training, whether it's through Career Crossroads or Amy Miller or Katrina Kibben or others, then they listen, and you give them the tools, and you give them some basic training, and they just go out and do it. And we've hired people without college degrees, and they've just knocked it out of the park. We've got some gals on our team. We're working back of house, driving a forklift, had perfect attendance for a couple of years working at a casino. And she's like, hey, let's make her a recruiter. And she tears it up, so so all of the stuff that you talk about, like, hey, consider people who don't have degrees or diverse backgrounds, we've kind of been forced to do through necessity. And guess what? That experiment the numbers don't lie. We've hired thousands of people in a short period of time. And I would stack those recruiters up, the gal who was driving a forklift, up with anyone from Facebook or Google. And I think they would do just fine. And their backgrounds might be different. They might have grown up in rural Oklahoma. They might be a tribal member, but they can freaking recruit.
I think that's fantastic.
They're doing a great job.
For potential, you're hiring for folks who can be trained. You're doing great work. Rob, thank you so much for joining the show. We're really excited to have you on. I look forward to seeing you at one of our meetings next week.
Absolutely. And I cannot wait to have our first in-person Career Crossroads event. And hopefully I can convince you guys to come out here to the Choctaw Nation, and I could give you guys maybe a tour of the cultural center. Maybe we could have our dance team perform, and maybe we can get you to stay in our world-class resort out here.
All right. Well, let's talk about it, because it's not like you've got a shortage of land out there.
This is true, but we'd love to see, and I can't wait to talk again.
It'll be good stuff. Look, as many of you already know on this podcast channel, we connect with talent leaders and practitioners almost weekly to talk about everything ranging from what's keeping them up at night to their favorite wine or their most embarrassing experiences, or like today, just to chat and see what they're up to or what they're working on. So you're not going to want to miss any of these episodes, whether it's a segment like Have You Met, like this one, or That's the Matter, Uncorked, or our popular growing expertise. So if you haven't already, head out to cxr.work/podcast, subscribe and get caught up. And while you're there, check out the new updates and community growth happening around any of the dozen or so forums and groups that are currently helping nearly, believe it or not, 5,000 members who are both members and free users. So there's plenty of content collaboration taking place for free members, cohort members, and alumni. Check it out, cxr.works. We'll see you guys later.
Thanks for listening to the CXR channel. Please subscribe to CXR on your favorite podcast resource and leave us a review while you're at it. Learn more about CXR at our website, cxr.works, facebook.com and twitter.com/careercrossroads, and on Instagram at careerxroads. We'll catch you next time.